Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how and when to lurk effectively in your competitive games. And so lurking is like, you think of it as a tool that you want to use just occasionally, right? You have different tools in your toolbox. You don't just use one to fit every single scenario. You use specific ones in specific scenarios, right? Hey guys, if you like my style of teaching and you want more, make sure to check out my Patreon in the link down below. You can find a couple of courses that I have that people really found effective. Both the mentality course as well as a competitive fundamentals course are two of my best sellers. Make sure to find those, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. So whenever you're playing a game, especially if you're a duelist, you typically want to be entering, right? Yeah. You typically want to be running in, opening up fights for your team, opening up space for your team, and that's great. But there are other things, there are other tools, right, that you can use that'll help you kind of be unexpected and open up space in other ways as well, right? So you have to be a little bit communicative with your teammates. But one example is lurking, right? Lurking is really useful. I would say, I don't want to put like a specific number on it, but you could go for this like 2, 3, 4 rounds out of a half on attack or defense. And so I'm going to give you guys, you can lurk on attack and defense. I'm going to be giving you guys a couple examples. You typically think of lurking on attack, but you can also lurk on defense. So it's actually really good to do that sometimes. So let's say that our team's been pushing A lot. And let's say our team's won A 3 rounds in a row. Let's tell our team, okay, wait, go, guys, go make noise A, and then I'm going to lurk up B, right? So this is an example of a lurk. You're kind of just walking. Your team's making noise, they're making noise, and then you walk up, walking up B. Nobody's here. This is actually a very common thing that will happen, where there's actually just nobody here. You walk in, you clear your corners, don't make a footstep like I just did. Walk up, and so now you have B, right? You might actually be able to get a kill. If you get a kill, then depending on where you get that kill, you can go toward that site. So if you get a kill like C, then you can be like, guys, okay, rotate. And as you're walking up B, your team can already be kind of coming back because your team sees the opportunity that you have and they're kind of trusting you. And if they're not rotating, if they're not listening, you can just ask them, leave, guys, leave. I have a good spot, or come B, or go C, right? Especially if you guys have just won A a bunch and they hear like 3, and then you just kill one B or C. That means there's only one person on this whole side of the map, right? And that's extremely good odds for you guys, right? And so this is one example of lurking on attack. You can lurk everywhere, right? You don't have to just lurk up to B. You can lurk here. For example, if your team's going C, you might go ahead, you might lurk up B, or you might lurk up A, right? You might have 2 people lurking. You might lurk here after your team's already made some noise towards C. Again, you want to pull some of the people away. You want to make these people that are holding aggressive kind of step back and rethink, okay, are they actually going C? Most of the time they might not leave, but that's okay. You can still lurk up and catch someone off guard, especially when the enemy team is saying, okay, guys, there's like three enemies C long, and that's your teammates running up. Now I want to briefly talk about what does lurking look like on defense. So I often like to start pistol round in garage because I like to be able to pull it close here with a frenzy, but also kind of peek here if I need to. I cannot. And then so what usually happens is they're gonna start by pushing A, or maybe C, or maybe mid, but usually they're gonna go A. And so then what I'll do is I'll kind of, after a second, after we hear them, like my teammates are like A, I like to kind of jiggle out here, and then I start to walk up. And this is an example of lurking, because what you would typically do is just gonna come back and rotate. And this is like the different tools, right? Like this is what you typically want to do, but it's first round of the half, so just try something and see how it works, right? So this is like a different tool you have in your toolkit here, to use that analogy. And I typically like to come up here and then maybe wait. It kind of depends what the enemies are doing. If they're already up long, they're running into sight, then I'm probably gonna start continuing to flank. You want to be careful of like a trip. Make sure you clear this corner. Make sure you're careful of trips. But however, if I hear them, if our team's like they're not up yet, and then I hear one here maybe, I'm gonna just kind of chill here, because this is a pretty good spot for me to get a kill, right? You're not always expecting someone to be like right here. You might expect it some of the time, but especially on like a pistol round, I would not expect this a lot of the time. So this is something you can go for. And again, this is just one example of a lurk, right? So let's say that you're playing, I don't know, let's say you're playing A, and the enemies go C. On defense, it's more kind of like flanking as opposed to lurking. So if they're like, okay, guys, C, and then they're like running on C, this is just a flank, right? You want to have your gun out, you want to clear stuff, make sure you're careful of trips, but this is just a flank at this point. Depending on if you go here or go through garage window, I typically go garage window, but again, this is up to you, and I would highly recommend experimenting with where you start, but also where you go from whenever you start, because so you can start in a a whole variety of spots here, right? You can start on B, you can start on A, you can start on C. Depending on where you start determines a lot about where you're going to go after the round starts and where the enemies start. So not only can you start anywhere on any of these sites, so can the enemies, right? So if you start B and the enemies come B, well, that's fantastic. You're in a perfect spot. But if you're starting B and they go C or A, where are you going to rotate? Are you going to go through mid? Or are you going to go this way? If they're going C, you're probably not going to run toward A, right? But, you know, I like this example of garage. Like, whenever you realize they're C or maybe, let's use the A example. Whenever you realize that they're A, is your gut reaction to kind of peek this and clear out mid? Or is it to just instantly run back and rotate? Because if you're always running back and rotating, then this is where we can add this extra tool of either lurking or flanking on defense, but on attack it's just lurking, right? It's not really, it's very rarely flanking on attack, because you're typically people are typically defending all sorts of areas, so it's more you're trying to catch people off guard. And again, you can do this on every map on all sorts of areas. And here's another example. So if we're starting C and we're kind of just chilling here, and then our team's like mid. This is a really good example of a flank. This is a semi-lurk flank, right? Because instead of choosing to rotate just back this way, which is probably what most of you guys would do, and then come to B, what I would do some of the time is come this way. And this is extremely unexpected. This is a really good map to demonstrate this as well, just because of how easily you can rotate around and how easily you can flank. There's a bunch of sites, there's a bunch of areas. Now, if your team's like mid, and then they're either going to go garage or B, if there's a bunch of gunshots happening, you can actually start running a little bit, because their gunshots or their abilities are going to mask your footsteps, which is extremely nice. I don't think you really need to clear this corner. The chances of someone seeing here are extremely low. You should maybe clear it, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then here, you're just going to get a really nice flank off. And most people are not going to expect this, but here, you're going to either see people here or you're going to see people up here, depending on which way they want to go. Now, yes, they could. You could be leaving C and they could be going C, but it depends. Do you have someone garage? Do you have another teammate back site? Do you have a trip in garage, right? These things kind of matter as well. You're not just wanting to leave the site completely open, because obviously if you're here now and then their whole team's on C, that kind of sucks. You might still have a semi-good flank, but yeah, so lurking on attack, I think is really where we want to put our main focus and where you should really consider lurking the most, but you should also consider flanking, because that really ties in quite a lot with lurking here. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you want another one, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.